have Sam Samaratunga here to talk about what it means to be a high-integrity politician, right? And the reason that this comes up as a construct in leadership, I think, is actually the broad range of stakeholders that we now have in both our business and society, the speed of change and the need to adapt, the ability to manage and mitigate risks is just growing like crazy, right? And so the consequences, we find ourselves being increasingly needy of forming coalitions, having conversations, working out agreements between people. And one of the dangers in doing that is you can actually lose yourself, right? And so, but on the flip side, it's more important than ever to actually have integrity at the heart of any of the agreements you have, because in all of this craziness, we need some ballast, right? So question is, does that paradox make sense to you in today's world? Does it feel real to you?
I think it is very definitely real, particularly when you work in a complex organization, and most of the clients that we would tend to work with are complex organizations. And I would almost argue that when you have more than 2 or 3 or 4 people, the effect of politics starts to have an effect, because it's all about how you influence, either directly and formally, or indirectly and informally. So I think, but I also think sometimes the word politics, because maybe of what we see real politicians do, maybe it gets a bad press. So I do think it's important that we recognize it both as a force for good, a force for getting things done, but also recognize the challenges and the downsides with it as well. So I think the paradox exists.
So what does politics mean to you then?
So politics to me, in the context of a corporate organization, I think means there's a degree of informality of getting to an outcome. It may be around influencing an outcome. It may be around better informing to reach a decision. But it's the informal processes that get you to an outcome, as opposed to the formal processes that may be designed to do the same, but somehow aren't as effective as they might be.
So you do know some people who are really, really political, but just don't have integrity, right? You've seen them in action?
Yeah.
What's the cost of that?
Well, I think the cost of that is, one, over time you lose faith. It can lead to bad outcomes. It can disenfranchise people. So from a leadership point of view, it can be quite damaging, because if you're trying to get people to move in a certain direction and you have people who are overtly political, which essentially means that they're kind of looking after their interest, or looking after an interest that may not be congruent with the firm's goals, it can lead to ultimately to the wrong outcome.
Yeah, so if any outcome is a good outcome, then we're in trouble, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So do you know people that you think epitomize these two things and are the exemplar for high integrity politician?
Who exemplifies it? It's difficult to know, because sometimes it's someone who spins the story well. So I was asked this question actually when I went through the partner process, who do I look up to? And I said someone like Richard Branson, who I think on the one hand knows how to get the right commercial outcome. He clearly must be a smart guy to have developed a multinational conglomerate business. But on the other hand, can also manage both in front of and behind the scenes to get to the outcomes that he's looking for. So I would put up as an example of someone who does it well.
So why is this relevant to our engagements with clients? Why is it important for a partner or a manager or a director to be a high integrity politician as it relates to engaging clients? I get internal, I get into political sphere. Why with clients?
So I think it's crucial actually with clients. And at the end of the day, what we're talking about, another word for politics is influencing.
Yep.
And we always talk about influencing skills as leaders. So when you talk and you work with clients, you have to get the balance right between giving them the right advice, which I think is crucial. We are there as brokers of good advice, the right advice for our clients. But if that advice doesn't get our client, who could be an individual in an organization, it's not the whole organization, to the right outcome, then maybe we haven't done our job to its fullest. So for example, if we're talking about a business change program that we're advising a client on, we might know the perfect answer, So what does the design look like in the right answer? But if our immediate client can't sell that concept within his or her organization, then that change isn't going to be effective or driven through effectively.
So you are thought of as someone who epitomizes this, which is why I'm talking to you, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's why I'm talking. So how do you build this? How do you become someone who can actually effectively manage multiple interests and find an answer, but do so in a way that actually gets to a good and appropriate and high integrity answer? How do you do that? How do you build that skill in yourself?
Well, I think to some extent it comes down to being self-aware and awareness of the situation you're in. I think it's about understanding how people behave and what motivates people, and actually what the differences are. And it's something that you're learning all the time, because you may think you're good at it, and then you meet someone and they're different to you. They think differently, they have a different agenda. So part of this is about being self and situationally aware, I think. Yeah. The other part, and being open then to adapt when you need to. The other part, which is the integrity part, which I think is really key, is knowing where you can be flexible, but where you draw the line.